Hello YouTube. I had to give a little extra 5-second pause before I started because of that car that just went past that you may have been able to hear. I'm out here for the first time live in very beautiful Nashville, Tennessee, of course, on business. And, you know, my first time being out here, I have to admit, as far as the southern cities that I visited, including Louisville, I took you guys to Louisville with me, made 2 videos there. This is, especially at night, one of the nicer southern cities. It's actually very impressive. I'm impressed, and I was not expecting this at all when I came here. It's too bad I have to leave in the morning, but I could actually picture myself moving here. But anyway, I found a little safe place to stroll near Nashville's main airport, and there's 2 things. I woke up today in my hotel room and I realized that there's 2 things that I have been made more aware of with myself in recent time than I usually otherwise would be. One of those things is that I spend more time, I actually live on the road like a fucking truck driver, even though I'm not. I actually live on the road. And oh Lord, I'm walking. I hope this cop doesn't pull over and ask me a stupid question, because I'm walking along the strip where cars drive into the airport. Okay, good, he drove past. Anyway, there are 2 things. Let me get back to what I'm saying. There's 2 things that I've come to realize even more so than I did before. It's kind of like a semi-categorized epiphany within an epiphany. One of the things is that I live on the road. I don't live at home, in Illinois or in Indiana, where I have another residence. I live on the road. And as a result of that, I don't really get to see much of home. It's like I'm there for like a day and a half, then I'm fucking gone. Sometimes I forget where I place certain pieces of furniture, at either place where I have. The other thing that I realized is that, there's not a day that goes past. There's not a single fucking day that goes past in my life where I am not reminded of why I avoid and despise the Black American female. Whether it's some shit that I saw on social media, whether it's, those 2 hood rat whores that pointed an object at me on the highway and nearly made me take their life in self-defense, whether it was my last and what will be my last relationship with a Black American female, whether it was, the countless encounters that I've had with shitty customer service with black females at Walmart or McDonald's or hotel receptionist or a gas station or whatever the fuck. And even in spite of these realizations, as many of you know, of course, I have actually expanded as my understanding of the modern day female, modern day women, has grown and evolved, I've actually expanded my avoidance of women. My anti-feminist ideology has led me to realize that most women nowadays are rotten no goods for men. So I've expanded my avoidance of women and my teachings to other brothers to avoid and or be careful around mostly all races of women. Okay? And a lot of men that are heterosexual males have a legitimate problem with, what I speak. What you will find in the black manosphere is that you will find most people that, they either link up with one side or the other. Either it's they hate, you know, they hate black men for one reason or the other, or they hate black women, and so they fully support dating outside of your race. Getting a plane ticket, getting a passport, going to another country or whatever, because somehow they'll seem to think that dealing with other tribes of people is the easy answer to their problem. And then on the other side of the pond, you have the people who hate people or despise people who, think differently as far as, race mixing and dating outside of their race. They will claim, and this is going to be really funny considering the topic of this video, they will claim to despise interracial relationships with black people, with other races of people. And so they will at least publicly support, this whole narrative, this, as we know, as those of us who have taken the red pill know, this fallacy of black love. Okay? And, you have very few people that, in the so-called black manosphere, on black YouTube, even on black social media, period, that have stepped completely outside of, that boundary line. I've crossed that boundary line. You have very few people like me that will say, you know what? Fuck everybody. Half the people in this world I don't like, the other half I don't trust. Fuck them. I don't want none of them. Okay? Keep them the fuck away from me. White, Asian, Hispanic, black, you pick a nigga, assalamu alaikum. Fuck them. Okay? And the reason why I have that mentality is because I've come to understand two things. Just like I told you, I've had kind of like a sub-categorized epiphany within an epiphany. I've come to understand that, number one, you have to take into account human nature whenever you're dealing with or whenever you're addressing a topic that involves human beings. Okay? Now, it is understood that, certain tribes of human beings have certain types of stereotypes, because certain tribes of people, from culture to, history, they're more prone to being involved with and, doing things than other tribes. Okay? But at its very base, when you talk about certain issues, like the way people act and react to things, being defensive when they really have no defense, lying or throwing someone else under the bus to make themselves look better or cover their own tracks, playing victim, which is pretty much the same exact thing, that is pretty much a global thing. Most people of most races are going to do this. Okay? Now you will ask, well, how does this relate to this video and the title? Well, see, this issue that has come up, which, it really has me kind of confused. I'm still scratching my head trying to process what all of the fuss is about over this Phil the Advice Show so-called scandal and controversy that people are talking about with him having an alleged white or Native American wife. First of all, I was under the impression for a couple of years now, because I don't watch much of his content at all. I made like one video on him 2 years ago that made a lot of Negroes butt hurt, back when I still had my Brian Too Bad TV Solange channel with the 5,000 subs. I'm confused because I was under the impression there were rumors swirling for 2 years that he had a Asian wife. That's what I heard. Okay, for 2 years. So, now all of a sudden it's coming out, these pictures or whatever, that, his wife is white and he claims that she's 67% Native American. That in and of itself, I'm trying to understand why this is a big deal. Okay? Because, I did not even plan on making this video. The only reason I made this video was because after a couple of days ago, when the brother Zeal, he sent me a link from the Advice Show, and then I saw somebody else talking about it, and then tonight, which is what inspired me to finally go ahead and do this, I saw Obsidian. He did a live stream about this and had the brothers on the panel, and they were pretty much talking about this issue with him being torn out the frame by primarily black women, because he's been exposed now as having a non-black wife. And I noted a couple of years ago, the reason why I made a video about Phil, and this goes back to what I was talking about when I say that, my attitude is trust no one, fuck everybody. Because Phil the Advice Show, to my knowledge, and again, I don't know very much about the brother, but I do know that when he originally came on YouTube, it seemed like he was kind of, trying to copy the style of, different YouTubers. And Phil the Advice Show, even though I don't really pay much attention to his shit, he impresses me as a guy who was always money minded. Okay, he was not really ever sincere about the work that he's done. And again, I cannot question the quality of his content, because again, I don't watch that much of it. But I do know when I first encountered Phil, it seemed like he was leaning more towards, Tommy Sotomayor type content, talking about, what I used to classify as the black weave rats, or as Tommy called them, the hair hats. I don't know how far back a lot of you brothers have been on YouTube, but I do recall seeing a couple of Phil's videos when I originally encountered him, like 3 years ago, where it seemed like he was leaning more towards along the lines of like a Tommy Sotomayor, talking about, the ratchetness of black women. And then about 2 years ago, I somehow found myself back on his channel or browsing through a couple of his videos. And this was right around the time, mind you, that Cynthia G was coming onto the scene. And I was like the Paul Revere of warning everyone about this fake bimbo. And, it seemed like he was starting to switch up. And he was abandoning the plan of presenting himself as kind of like a more politically correct Tommy Sotomayor and more like a fist in the air, pro whack like Cynthia G, because it seemed like he was he kind of switched over from Tommy, and he was kind of following in her footsteps with the, talking about the evil albinoid devils. He switched from talking about black women to talking about white people and racism and stuff. And I think it's more his voice than anything else. And I told Obsidian this. I've told several people this. Okay, I understand that there are people, and Obsidian has tried to get me on with this. I understand that there are people on YouTube, okay, who their primary goal is to, even above making a name for themselves, is to make money, to do this as a profession, just like a radio host, like a Rush Limbaugh, or somebody like that. They want to do this as a profession to turn a profit. And Phil the Advice Show he's always impressed me as someone who is not necessarily anywhere the wind blows, but a person who's, if there's a tornado going this way, okay, we're gonna go the opposite way type of dude. It's really kind of hard to explain, but I never did, because he never seemed to really have passion. And again, I can't really question the man's integrity or the quality of his content, but he never impressed me as a person that really had passion behind anything he said. When I get on here, especially, 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago, if you had saw me back then, before, the YouTube purge occurred, and they pretty much started coming after us YouTubers that spoke our minds in a very vulgar way. I was relentless. Any of y'all from back then, I was relentless. I took no prisoners in the shit I was talking. I've not censored, but I have cleaned up here on YouTube. I've not cleaned up. I've learned to control my verbiage a little better in my commentary, and I just use YouTube to try and promote, what I really think and what I really have to say on other platforms like Black Avenger TV, BitChute.com, which we're hoping to transition over to primarily over the course of the next couple of years, because of course I see that as the end strategy. But the reason why I've come on here, and some people have come on here, is to express how they really feel, express their frustrations, and then over a course of time, whether it was through the former Google AdSense program or through PayPal, some people like Tommy Sotomayor, they made a really big name, and they made a really big payday for themselves. They used their passion on a certain particular subject to really get in it good. But then I've noticed most of us, let's face it, most of us who are content creators, that's how we came into the game. Okay, when I first did this, when I first created the Brian Solange channel and everything, I had absolutely no intention of making a single dime from this. The reason why I even came up with that stage name was because I had been taken to court by this fake pro-black whore that I made a video about on another channel that I had up under a different screen name, because I found out that she was basically cheating on me while we were together, and I wanted to put her on blast for it. And she was able to file a frivolous request to get a order of protection against me for making a fucking video about her, in which I didn't threaten her or anything. So I, pretty much, being defiant, I took that same video after the court proceeding where she was granted the order of protection, and I put the video up on like 6 different fucking channels. And I made sure to do it under an alias channel so it couldn't be proven that it was me. You know what I'm saying? And so that's how Brian Salon started. That was the very first video that I put up in 2014 of that fake pro-black whore that, you know, I had the misfortune of dating and having an experience with. And so, you know, over a course of time, I pretty much just developed that into a passion of talking about things that got on my fucking nerves, primarily that being the black American female. And I built a little name for myself. Of course, if I had have, you know, been more business minded and marketed myself better, I could, you know, be a lot larger than I am. And of course, if I hadn't had my fucking channel with the 5,000 subs flagged down, I could be a lot larger than I am right now, you know. But one of the reasons why my channel hasn't grown, although I think everybody knows my name on Black YouTube, is because I've always kept it 100. Okay, I talk to people about what I feel, what I feel passionate about. Okay, what I want to talk about, you know, what's on my mind. I don't talk about things just to cater to other people's ego. Okay, but my point is that you have people like me, and then you have people like Phil, or that white boy, the veganator, aka the pussin' hater, that they never had a personal connection. You know how they say in the Italian mafia, you know, it's just business. You know, a cosa nostra, our business. It's just business to certain people. They kind of see which way the wind is blowing, you know, in a certain community, and they try to get in there and finagle their way inside to, you know, find an angle to capitalize for themselves. I think there are people that are like this for sure, in my opinion, are Phil the Advice Show, the Veganator. The argument can be made for Cynthia G and Paris Milan, but definitely Phil the Advice Show has always impressed me as the type of person that was, you know, he was money minded from the moment he stepped on the scene. Now, that's one angle of this. The other angle of this, going back to what I said, is what perplexes me. Which is back when I said that why I am reminded every day of why I avoid black women. Why I cannot stand them. Why I barely even look or talk to them. Because, you know, besides, you know, me just being confused about this, because everybody's acting like this is big news, you know, what I don't understand is people, the likes of, I almost feel dizzy even putting these people's names in my mouth. Paris Milan, Radical Home Goddess, Cynthia G, China Fox, Crystalline Kerosene. These are all women. Now, mostly everybody, including Tommy and like almost everybody, has made a video, at least one video, about Phil the Advice Show being exposed as a fraud, you know, and all this, that, and the other. And among these are these 5 women that I just mentioned, okay? And some of them you can see in this edited screen collage that I made myself. And, you know, I'm left stunned. I'm left jaw-dropped. Because on one hand, I'm confused as to why Phil and who he's in a relationship with is even it is even news in the year 2018, where you can if black people are pretty much hunting, they're pretty much head hunting, pussy and penis hunting for white people, whether they're pro-black or not. I mean, for Christ's sake, Brother Polite a couple of years ago posing with the white bimbo, the Playboy model. I mean, for Christ's sake, why Phil is hit, why this is even news when this is what you Negroes do, including some of you very Negroes that listen to me talking about get your passport. What the fuck? If we want to talk about, again, if we want to talk about the integrity and the intent of Phil and his content over the years, and was he sincere about anything that he said, okay? I made a video criticizing him when I made one video about Phil, criticizing him when I noticed him switching over from the Tommy Sotomayor stance to the Cynthia G type evil albinoid devil stance. But not once did I question who the fuck Phil was fucking, okay? I had always heard rumors that it was an Asian woman, and I thought that this was, that this was common knowledge, that he was an interracial black guy. I didn't know, I don't follow him that close. But on one hand, you had that confusion for me. Me left scratching my head as to why in the year 2018, when all niggas want to do is swirl, okay, why this is even news in the first place. Then on the other hand, you have these idiotic females, these hypocritical, conniving, backstabbing. I mean, if you look up hypocrisy in a goddamn dictionary, you should one day soon see the pictures of all of these females that I just mentioned and in this collage. How in the motherfucking hell do any of these hypocritical hoes, and I know I gotta watch myself because this is YouTube, but how do they fix their mouths? Of all the women on YouTube or anywhere else, how do they fix their mouths to say one fucking word about Phil the Advice Show? I mean, let's go down the list here. Now, I don't know Radical Home Goddess. I've never watched any of her videos, but countless of you brothers have told me on multiple occasions that this is a woman that admittedly used to be married to a white man. He beat her ass or something like that, called her the N-word, something where they had a big falling out. And then all of a sudden she transitioned from being an interracial dater to, being, pro-black, black countess or some bullshit like this. Paris Milan, I was the first to expose both her and Cynthia G as being frauds. Starting with Cynthia G. Here's a woman who had countless pictures of her in her college years partying with white girls, okay? And then later on, somebody exposed her with another picture with a white man with his arm around her waist, and she looked so comfortable with these white people. And then she later came out and said that she dated white men. She said, she claimed she didn't have sex with them, bullshit. But she claimed they were giving her money and she was going out with them. Okay? So, when she could no longer hide it because she knows how dumb and weak you Negroes are, she just came out and said it. Yeah, I was with a white man and I'll get back with one if I want to be. And Negroes still support her and help her build her channel and her brand to this day. Then you had this female, Paris Milan. This is a chick who admitted in one of the very first videos that she made, and I do believe that she's even more of an opportunist than Cynthia G, because Cynthia G, she strikes me as someone who's mad. She's butthurt about either a black man or a white man, pretty much kicking her to the curb or playing her or something, when she thought that she was the player and then she got played. That's what she kind of impresses me as. But you have this bimbo, Paris Milan, who in one of her first videos, she admitted that she gave her number to some white boy that was in some NSYNC style boy band group. and that she has auditioned for what she claimed was, not to her knowledge at the time. She thought she was auditioning for just a regular model shoot or commercial, but she admitted that she auditioned for porn directors. Okay, and they were likely white porn directors. Okay, and she seemed to have a very unusual amount of knowledge of the adult film industry. What the actresses actually get paid versus what people think they get paid, and stuff of that nature. Okay. Then you have Crystalline Carrison, who, I mean, she at least, I give Crystalline Carrison that over Cynthia G, Radical Home Goddess, and Paris Milan. At least she doesn't try to hide what she is. I mean, do we have to go down the list? Pink package, character over color, swirling, all this crap, all these hashtags that this demented woman has made over the years, making it known under no uncertain terms, is she trying to get black women on board with black men. Okay? Anything. She will promote anything. Asian men, Hispanic men, white men, of course, a fucking alien man from outer space, anything. She will support a empty tomato can being taken down the aisle with a black woman in a bride dress before she promotes black men and black women. Okay? So she has made her position on the whole issue of so-called black love very, very clear, and has done so from the beginning. And then China Fox, China Fox, oh my God. This is another chick who I didn't even pay attention to until all of you brothers started coming to me, telling me about how she had been exposed. This light-skinned half-breed chick that was exposed with, being on Twitter and talking about, pretty much doing the same thing that they were accusing Stefan Clark of doing, talking about, she don't want black men or fuck black men, or if you don't like her interracial relationship, you can take a flying fuck. I don't know exactly what she said, but somebody found an old tweet from her, and then they found old pictures of her on Model Mayhem, on Twitter, on Facebook, of her cozying up to these white boys, and she got exposed. Now I'm left scratching my head. You have two women that told on themselves, Cynthia G and Paris Milan, that they're former swirlers. You have, or current swirlers. You have one woman who got exposed, and exposed as a fraud of being a pro-black in China Fox. You actually have three women who, admittedly were former swirlers, according to y'all. If you include Radical Home Goddess, Cynthia G, Paris Milan, and then one that got exposed by others, China Fox. And then you have one woman who, admits that she hates black men. So the second part of my confusion, where the skies were just really cloudy today as I was, trying to figure out how I was going to do this video, if I was going to do this video, is the only thing that makes me scratch my head more than why Phil and who he's married to and fucking is even an issue in the year 2018, where pretty much any black person can be with a non-black person and it's okay. Some of you very Negroes that are, calling black women bed wenches are talking about get you a white woman. The other thing that left me scratching my head even harder on the other side was, how are these hypocrite bimbos, how in the living hell do they have the blatant audacity? How do they have the gall to say any fucking thing about Phil being exposed as a fraud when they were frauds from the jump? And then, And goes back all the way back to the beginning of this video when I told y'all, because you got to remember, Paris Milan, Radical Home Goddess, Cynthia G, Crystalline Cares, and China Fox, all 5 of these women, all of them, not after they got exposed for being the frauds that they always were, their brand, their channels, their money continued to grow. You know, I don't know how much they're netting off of this per se, but I bet that in particularly in the case of Cynthia G and Crystalline Cares, they're netting pretty damn well. Okay, so their brand has grown since then. It didn't bring them down. You know, it may have, put them in a little bit of hardship when they were exposed at the time, but it didn't overall destroy them. Some of the very same people who called them out are back listening to and following them. Okay? So they don't have a problem with people knowing what they've done in the past. Okay? That's why they openly admitted it or kept, putting on the fake pro-black charade even after the fact. Yet these same idiotic females have the blatant audacity. Now, if they're brave enough, I guess, to continue with the fake pro-black charade, or with the I'm for black women charade, even after everything that they've pulled, that they've been exposed with, then I guess it should not be any surprise that they would be audacious enough to make videos calling out Phil for doing the exact same fucking thing that they've been doing from the damn jump, which is playing you niggas for a goddamn fool. I mean, seriously, how do any one of these females fix their mouth to say any goddamn thing about Phil or anybody else? How? One of you Negroes, I think it was well, I ain't gonna burn bridges with, but there was a brother that emailed me, and I couldn't help but laugh. I don't have nothing against the brother, but he emailed me, and a couple of y'all were talking about it. I know somebody had brought it up on a Obsidian show that black men were elated because Radical Home Goddess, she was calling out some female that was bed wenching, a while back, and black men were elated because Radical Home Goddess, she really went in on this chick. I don't quite recall what that was about, but I'm scratching my head in that situation too. I'm like, again, y'all have told me about this woman being a former swirler with a white guy who now she's butthurt, and now she's back, doing the whole pro-whack thing. I mean, how does she fix her mouth to call out another woman? That's like a Nazi trying a Nazi at Nuremberg for the Holocaust. I mean, what the fuck? It doesn't make any fucking sense. And this, the fact that black women particularly can get away with this shit, the fact that they can get away with their hypocritical bullshit, the fact that they can be exposed, they can be called out for some bullshit, being hypocrites or being their what they're doing behind closed doors or have done in the past, being in direct contradiction with the things that they're claiming and they're promoting, and they can get away with this shit, and people will still support them just like they do the black pastor, is a prime example of why I do not fuck with these females. I stay away from them. I avoid them. And while I have said, I even said in this video, that I don't trust any female, I actually avoid all of them. Okay? I have, there are things that a heterosexual male can do to, fulfill certain parts of himself that need to be fulfilled. And no, I'm not talking about masturbation. Okay? In a couple of more years, y'all will know exactly what I'm talking about. People think it's funny. They think it's a joke now. It's kind of a thing to be shamed of now. But A couple of years, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm not even gonna bring it up in this video because I don't feel like having trolls. Okay, but I realized that I can get along with life. I can enjoy life without a female. Now, is that to say that I'll never be with one again? No. But for me to be with a female nowadays, she would pretty much have to come at me all the way. Meet me halfway? No, fuck that. She would have to come all the way on my side. Okay? And still, I would dip my toe in the water to see if she was a shark before I jumped all the way in and started swimming with her ass. Like she the little mermaid. Okay? So, my position is very clear. I don't need none of these hoes. But black females in particular, because the overall collective of the black community is we are mentally weak and thus easily manipulated and vulnerable, not only by the black pastors in these black churches, not only by the white liberals, but by these fake pro-whack brother Polites and Cynthia G's that will talk to you about the evil albinoid devil on a computer screen, but then be fucking one behind closed doors just 2 minutes later. I think what's so disturbing to me, and why I'm actually glad this stupid shit like this comes across my screen, more often than sometimes I would like it to, is because, it reminds me of why I distance myself from most Negroes and most people in general. Because I realize that most people, they, number one, are full of shit, okay? And number two, they go with the way the wind blows. It doesn't matter whether it's right. It doesn't matter whether it's wrong. They go with which way the wind is blowing. Now, the biggest problem with black women in the overall black community is that unlike other tribes of people, okay, we don't catch and persecute and prosecute those that are using us and manipulating us for their own benefit, okay? When the Romanian people got close enough to Tsar Vladimir Ceausescu, or whatever his name was, back after the Berlin Wall fell, and, the Soviet Union was collapsing, they lined him up against a wall and executed him and his damn wife in front of news cameras from around the fucking world, okay? But black people would take a person like that after he's been exposed for years of using and abusing his power to benefit himself or her, and instead of lining them up against a wall and dropping a guillotine blade on their head, or hanging them, or executing them, or jailing them, we'll put them on an even higher pedestal. Which is why you have the likes of Paris Milan, Crystalline Kairzan, Cynthia G, China Fox, Radical Home Goddess, and the like, having the blatant gall and audacity to go after a man for interracially being in an intermarriage with a white or non-black woman, when they have done the exact same thing with white men their goddamn selves. You Negroes are pathetic. Talk to you later, guys.